a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, everybody. Welcome to episode number 211 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, January the 6th, 2024. My name is Jeremy Lee. I would like to thank everybody who joined us last week for our episode with Brian Gray. Ton of fun during that episode. It was long. You can check that out on the YouTube channel and on podcast in two different parts. Next Saturday on the show, our guest is Dave Schwartz. He's the host of the popular podcast, The Shallow End. He goes by Iowa Dave on Instagram. No MC Mondays this Monday, but tomorrow night there will be a PWCC hockey weekly auction watch party with myself and Josh Madigan of the Hockey Cards Gong Show. I would like to ask you to join close to 500,000 people who have downloaded the Center Stage app across both iOS and Android for quick comps and card management features. Their app is the fastest and most accurate at shows or at home to help you price your cards. You can build, organize, share your collection with your friends, and find other collectors to follow using the social sharing features. Marketplace features are coming soon. Check out their Instagram account and please join me in supporting the wonderful team and the innovation they are undertaking at Center Stage. Also, use protection, practice safe swaps. Veriswap is an app and middleman service that lets you securely trade cards through the mail. Every transaction up to $1 million is in value is fully insured by their guarantee. You can check them out on iOS and Android. It's now live in Canada, and they will be opening up a Canadian hub very soon. They're offering $50 in free trade credit to anybody who uploads 10 hockey cards to their account. Please join me also every second Tuesday on Instagram Live, where myself and Veriswap founder Raymond Lee host a live, and we call it the Veriswap Trade Desk. We look at 3 different trades. We show the side A and side B, and we all vote on which side we think won the trade. Also, I want to shout out hobbynewsdaily.com, and I want to thank Danny Black for having me on their YouTube show just yesterday. You can check that out on the Hobby News Daily YouTube channel. And also, as always, shout out Leighton, Sheldon, and Just Collect. Leighton will be joining us shortly tonight for the Vintage Spotlight segment. I also want to let you all know that you can now buy and sell tag graded cards on ComC. Also, Tag's new Tag X grading service is a game changer, and Pokemon and other round corner TCGs are now eligible for grading at Tag. Visit taggrading.com if you value transparency and consistency in your grading. As always, I want to thank all partners, sponsors, and supporters, loyal viewers and listeners of the show. Thank you for your support. If you're not yet subscribed, please take a moment and do so. And Happy New Year as well to everybody. Although I think it's about time to stop saying that this year. As always, your comments, your questions are in play. So let's get to it, everybody. Tonight's guest started in the hobby in 1981. He was 4 years old, and every Friday, his parents would order pizza and subs. He would go with his dad to pick them up, and he'd get to buy some packs of cards. He's been in the hobby ever since. His favorite players of all time are Michael Jordan, Mario Lemieux, Mean Joe Green, Willie Mays, and his favorite teams of all time are all Pittsburgh, the Penguins, the Pirates, the Steelers, but also the Chicago Bulls. He's originally from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, currently hailing from Fairfax, Virginia. Let's bring him out. Rex Morgart, welcome to Sports Cards Live. Rex, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Jeremy. I'm doing great and super excited to be here. Fan of your shows, so really excited to get on here and talk about the things that I love.
Well, you know, when we first made contact, I mean, it resonated with me, Rex, because first of all, your display behind you is unbelievable. That might be the best display that's ever been, a backdrop that's ever a guest has ever had on an episode of Sports Cards Live. I love it. You are surrounded by vending machines, which is something you collect, and we're going to talk about unopened product and all that, but I like vending machines too, Rex. I've got one right there. I believe it's similar to the one maybe to your left over there. We have some things in common in the hobby. I also love unopened packs. I think what they represent is awesome. We'll get into that. But before we do, let's learn a little bit about you. I mean, I don't think you are very active on Instagram. So I don't think really that many of the viewers would know you or know what you collect. But you are active in at least one large Facebook group. We'll get to that shortly, but let's let the audience get to know you a little bit. Tell us a bit about your history in the hobby.
Yeah, like you said, I'm not super active on all those, all the social media stuff, but I am in the Facebook group a little bit, but we'll chat about that later. Yeah, I mean, as a collector, like you stated in the intro, my first recollection of getting into cards in the hobby was 1981, going to pick up, subs and pizzas on a little corner store, little 3-aisle corner store with the cards were right by the register. My dad would always buy me a pack or two of the cards and the old stickers for the top sticker albums. And that's kind of my first, recollection of actually getting cards and being active. But really, I have a very, very vivid recollection of the first time I truly became a collector. I was in about 6th grade, which I was around 1987, and we were in my homeroom class in school, and I sat right beside two of my best friends, and they used to pass out those little like papers, little flyers where you could order like magazines and books and little like coloring book kits, all that kind of stuff, and they had a baseball card collecting kit in there. And me and my friends kind of looked at each other and we kind of all agreed, hey, we're gonna get this. And so we ordered it. You bring your check into school or whatever from your parents, and it comes a few weeks later, and we got it. And it's I still remember it like yesterday, man. There was that baseball card album from the 80s. It had pictures of all the cards on the front of it. You got a little price guide in there, some pages and some cards to start you out. And I mean, literally ever since then, I've been involved in the hobby and a collector. I'm not much of a seller. I do sell things occasionally if I'm, looking to buy something, buy something else or upgrade something. But I don't do much of selling. I'm pretty much a true collector.
Yeah, right on. First, so I think you're talking like those Scholastic book fair type of things, right? Where you'd get. I remember getting those in grade school as well, and you just look and fantasize about getting all the different books in that little flyer. Remember that well. That brings back some good memories. Before we get on with it, let's say hello to, we got Jake Dahl here. We got Linda's first in the house. Kevin, good to see you. Good to have you. Thank you for joining. Linda says, I bet when you were thinking about starting this webcast, you had no idea you'd have to start each episode with all these promos. No, I didn't, Linda. You are right. I did not. Jeff McMahon, hello to you. Andrew, what's going on? Al G, welcome to the show. Me and Al made a deal earlier today. Thank you, Al. Barry Ma, good to see you, Barry. Happy New Year. Cardboard Profit in the house. What's going on? Cardboard Profit, Card Vibe, good to see you. Unopened Vintage Wax is my new obsession. Well, good episode for you to be joining. Dan's Vintage, what's going on? Good to see you. Carvin Chung, the legend. What up, what up? What up, Carvin? Good to see you. 90s Hockey Collector, good evening. The Professor has joined us. Vintage Card Collector is here. T-Dot, what going on? The Cardboard Corner, hello. And Bobby Burrell, a great guy to have on watching this episode. He loves what's behind you, Rex. Says, love the Big Oak Vendor. That's a heavy one. Oh, that's amazing. Mike Double V, what's happening? Jeff Hart, good evening to you as well. So, and Joe Sacco. What's going on, Joe Sacco? Formerly the Toronto Maple Leafs. JH loves some old wax. All right, Rex, I wanted to ask you, you were a Chicago Bulls fan. Tell us that story. I find that pretty interesting.
Yeah, so growing up in Pittsburgh, we've never had an NBA team. So I didn't follow really any NBA growing up until about, I think it was 1989-90, when our local cable system started picking up the WGN channel out of Chicago, and they televised all of the Chicago Bulls games. And it just happened to coincide with that time when Michael Jordan was exploding from, kind of this young up and coming rookie to really a superstar in the league. And I was just mesmerized by watching him. I watched every single game. I was pretty passionate about it, for never having an NBA team in my city or really being an NBA fan previous to that. My dad wasn't into the NBA, like on a regular basis like that. So, it was just seeing Jordan, it's something clicked, man. I had never seen anything like it. And I have very vivid memories of watching him. And even to this day, I still remember laying on my couch watching him against, I think that it was a Laker playoff game, I think, when he kind of goes up one side, switches hands, up underneath like a defender and lays it right in, just crazy stuff that he would do like that. And I mean, it was an amazing time in the NBA. And I think I mentioned to you that, it's kind of funny, as passionate as I was about the Bulls and the NBA back then, when Michael Jordan retired, and even maybe his last year, like with the Wizards, I kind of just fell off. I literally have not watched an NBA game since the day Michael Jordan retired. Maybe a minute or two here or there, but I can maybe name four or five current NBA players.
That's what I find interesting, is that you were more of a Jordan fan than a basketball fan, it sounds like, and that's pretty I don't think that's outside the realm of normalcy, really, because Jordan he transcended basketball, the NBA, and what he did was unbelievable. So I just thought it was kind of interesting that as passionate as you were, you're no longer a basketball fan. You're still a Jordan fan, but you don't follow basketball anymore.
I watch college. I still watch my college team, University of Pittsburgh, Pitt Panthers. I still follow them and watch them closely, and some college basketball, March Madness. But as far as NBA, man, I've just lost interest. I see these funny clips on like Facebook where they'll show like LeBron taking like 6 steps to the basket and laying it in. I see stuff like that, and I just kind of turns me off, and just it's all 3-pointers, and I don't know. I'm just not.
What happened?
It's not my thing.
What happened? All right, let's get into the sealed packs and boxes. How did you first get into and get interested, and what was your first exposure? I really want to find that initial moment. If you can go back in your mind to the first time where you said to yourself, "Ooh, I like the idea of unopened packs and collecting them." What was that moment?
Yeah, I know. I know exactly when it was. As a kid, again, being 10, 11 years old, my dad would take me to a lot of the local card shows, little local fire hall shows, mall shows, Holiday Inn. So we would go to all the shows, and one vendor in particular was always at the shows, a local guy, and he always had unopened packs. And again, so that we're talking like 1987, 88. So at that time, he had packs from maybe like 1976 to like 1980, which were older. And, at that time, you didn't see a lot of that stuff, especially at little local shows. You didn't see that kind of stuff. And I was just fascinated by, this is like a 10-year-old pack and it's still unopened. Like, how do you leave the gum in there? How does that sit somewhere for 10 years and nobody thinks to open it or wants to open it? How did that pack get here? More or less, or I mean, you talk about packs in the 50s. How did they get here? But even 10 years back, how did they survive? They weren't super collectible like that back in the 70s. People weren't thinking, oh, unopened stuff's going to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So how did these things survive? And I would buy packs from him. They would be maybe $1, $2, $3 a pack. And I would bring them home, and I kept them and displayed them in my bedroom, and my friends would come over and be like fascinated by seeing these packs. And they would always ask me like, well, why don't you open them? Or, how come you don't want to open them? So, but I just didn't want to. I thought it was super cool just seeing those old packs. And, then there was also, I would daydream about what it would be like to find a box in an attic of 1954 tops or 55 tops or 52 tops, something like that, that would just be mind blowing. And, it's crazy, but that's kind of where it started for me.
It was literally just the interest in the fact that these things had not been opened. I mean, that's for me, it was a little bit different, because I didn't get into the unopened packs until the early to mid 2000s, like 2005, 6, 7. It was in there when I realized that, whoa, these things, because they reminded me of the 80s. And when I used to open up packs, like going back to 1980, 81, 82, 82 is when I really started opening up packs, like by the stack when I could. And it's really that nostalgia to back then that, oh man, like they are such a cool thing. I think personally, they're so cool. Listen, it's one thing for guys like us who grew up in that era to say it's so cool. They're so cool. But if you only started collecting cards in the late 90s or even in the early pandemic, do you really care that much about the packs from our youth? I don't know. Maybe I'm sure some people do, but when you have that direct connection to them, I think it's just super, super awesome. That's why I was so excited to have this chat with you. Let's say good afternoon to Brett S. What's going on? Brett, Jake Dahl here, Rex says, are there cards in those vending machines behind you?
There are in some of them, but at this point, I don't remember which ones actually have some cards in them. And they don't have like the period card years in them. I think except for the 71 machine might have some 71s in them. Basically for the reason that I don't want to destroy the cards as they're being vended or anything, you know, but yeah, some of the machines do have cards in and they all work.
Card Vibe here says there's so many reasons to collect vintage wax packs, the artwork, the history, and the rarity. Yes, I'm with you. I think we're both with you on that. Card Vibe, welcome to the show. Laura is back, been a while. Pleasant evening to you, Laura. Nikola Tesla says, how can this guy have all this sealed gold and resist the urge to open it? We're going to get into how we resist the urge, Nikola Tesla. Mike says, I have zero self-control with packs. I couldn't leave anything unopened, and that's why they're so cool, because they're so rare. They're so hard to find still unopened. Mitch what does this say? Jay Lee, I listened to 19 hours of your podcast today, starting since 4 a.m. when I started work. Love the content. Keep up the great work. I love hearing about those hidden gems you pointed out. Mitch, well, thank you for that commitment to listening today. That's a lot of time. Take a break, Mitch. Take a break. Brett S. says, Rex is the grandmaster for willpower and delayed gratification. There you go. There you go. Gee, what do you think of the Black Diamond Gems Retro? Not for right now, Mitch. T-Dot, I buy O-Pee-Chee 80 sticker packs, pure nostalgia. No doubt. Card Vibe says there's a lot of folks that don't open vintage packs, and some have an opinion you shouldn't open them. I understand both opinions, but prefer to keep them unopened. And we're going to be getting into that exact topic, especially when Leighton joins us here in about 15 minutes or so. And Brett says, I have a box of 93 SP football purely for the nostalgia and how much I loved that set as a teenage kid. Exactly. I think that is very important. And Vintage Card Collector wants to know about the grade. Yeah, we'll be getting into that later. Vintage. Okay. I wanted to ask you, Rex, about the community, because, you know, I'm pretty active on online networks, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and as well as, you know, the in-person communities at card shows and stuff. But as far as vintage, unopened packs, vending machines, can you just sort of enlighten me and the audience as to like what is the community like? Is it how not that you could quantify the amount of participants, maybe you have an idea, but how do you find, or how do you think that the unopened vintage collector community compares to, say, the vintage card collecting community?
Yeah, first I want to just touch on one of the comments you just read about the nostalgia part of it. I mean, that's a huge part of it. We all want our childhoods back. We all want to remember those things. And every time I crack open, you know, you crack open one of those wax packs and you can smell that gum and feel the cards. I mean, it just like instantly transports you back. And I think that's what truly hooks a lot of us in. Is that feeling of nostalgia. And, you know, the guy that mentioned 93 football. That's a little bit after my time that I collect, but you know, if that was part of your childhood, you know, that brings back all those memories, just seeing that box. You know, as for the pack community, like I said, I took an early interest back in the late 80s and in this, you know, unopened stuff. And, you know, back then it was such a small niche in the hobby. Like you just didn't see the stuff, even at some of the larger shows. You know, my dad would take me down. There used to be a big show in Pittsburgh once a year, and he would drive me down and we would go to the show. And, you know, Mr. Mint would attend the show. So it was a pretty big show, and you just didn't see this stuff. And there was no internet back then. There was no eBay back then. I know that's hard to believe, but you know, there was, so you didn't, I didn't even know what a 52 Topps pack looked like back then, because how would I know? There's no place where you just go look this stuff up at the, in the palm of your hand like we do now. So there was always that curiosity factor too. But the community has really grown. I've seen it just kind of explode over the last 5-10 years. The pandemic too, things went nuts, and I think even more people got into it. And pack breaking has become a big thing online now, and that all feeds into it. Just talking about the social media aspect of it. So like the vintage, I'm in a group. It's called Vintage Wax and Packs on Facebook. It's an amazing group. I mean, there is a ton of knowledge in that group, and I encourage anybody, if you're interested in pack collecting, if you are a pack collector, if you're just curious, jump in the group. You can learn a ton. I mean, there's people that know far more than I do in there, that have some amazing expertise. The group started in 2016 with a few hundred members, me being one of them. I think there was like 500 members when I joined. In 2020, I think they had 5,000 members, and today they have over 16,000. So you can just see the growth rate, the fast growing community there and the interest. And yeah, I think it's just continues to get more popular as, the live breaks become more popular and people learn more about it.
Yeah. That's awesome. I don't think I'm a member of that group, but I will be within half an hour of our show ending tonight. I'm gonna go join that group for sure, especially since I have a collection of this stuff, and I have it out here beside me, of course, while having you on. The next thing I want to ask you about and we're gonna get to it after some comments, but start thinking about this, Rex. What are, as card collectors, we know what the most iconic cards are. Everybody knows it's the 52 Topps Mantle, the Honus Wagner, the Wayne Gretzky, the Michael Jordan, whatever Tom Brady card is hot at the time. There's always cards that are the most sought after, and by the hardcore collectors. I would like to know from you, what are the most sought after Grail type pieces that actually exist amongst you and your fellow unopened pack collect. Like, I'm an unopened pack collector, Rex, but it's not like I'm not hardcore into it. I've got a collection. I'll pick up haven't picked up a piece really in a couple of years now, but I'll pick up some pieces now. Maybe one or two a year, if that. So I want to get that from you. But while you think about that, let's just go to some more of the comments that have come through while you were chatting. Chad Shipper says, you have much better willpower than I do. If I have a pack, I have to rip it. And Chad, you are far from alone. Bob Boozle in the house says, I'm a little dazed, been sniffing 1992 Fleer Ultra packs all afternoon. Now, I actually know that distinct smell of 92 Fleer Ultra when they added that coating, that nice glossy coating. That does have a smell. Bob Boozle, make sure you are sitting down for the rest of the show, please, Mr. Boozle. Andrew D says, Mr. Mint was a character, met him a few times. He did bring a lot of eyeballs to the industry with his ways. And Linda's first says, please rest in peace to Mr. Rosen, who was also Mr. Mint. Said he always had a first booth right at the door at every show. Yep. Andrew D says, Vintage Wax and Packs is the best group on Facebook. That's nice. So I'm looking forward to joining. Card Vibe joined it just a few months ago, says it is solid. Sports Card Short says PSA is grading packs now. PSA has been grading packs for 15 years anyway. I mean, I was buying my PSA slab packs back in the mid 2000s for sure. We've got Henry in the house. What's going on, Henry? We got Dave Snyder with us. Welcome to the show, fellas. Mitch O says, starting with modern cards. We're not talking about modern cards tonight, Mitch O. This episode is about vintage and unopened packs, that sort of thing. Dave Snyder just got here. He's got the virus. Welcome. Take care of yourself, please. Mr. Dave Snyder says, props on the BG interview. Appreciate that from last week for sure. Jay, I'm opening 91-92 Upper Deck hockey box. So much fun. No doubt. And Craig's card says, are we seeing less or more fake packs nowadays? That's an interesting topic that, I didn't even have in my notes for tonight, but I'm going to add that, and we're going to get to that. I'm going to star that for now, Craig, and we'll come back to that. But Rex, can you get back to my original question before the comments there, which was, what are some of the most sought after pieces amongst you and your vintage pack collecting brethren?
Okay, so I'll kind of give you a little bit of each sport, like kind of what I think are some of the best packs that you would find out there. So I think as far as baseball goes, I mean I know you mentioned things that actually exist, but I am going to mention like 1933, 34, 38 Gaudy packs with the Ruths and the Lou Gehrig cards. There's zero population right now on them. I have seen a pack that a collector I know has one. A guy who's been in a hobby a long time, who's he has an outstanding vintage collection, but he has shown me a 33 Gaudy pack, and it's pretty freaking awesome. It's got one piece of gum, one card, the wrapper. It looks like a good pack. He said he showed it to Steve Hart. He said Steve was leaning towards that it's probably a good pack, but he just didn't feel comfortable putting his stamp of approval on it because there's a lot of scrutiny that's going to come with it. It's a 1 cent pack, so there's only one card in there, and the penny packs are much harder to authenticate because the way the flaps are folded on them, they're much easier to manipulate. You're talking about almost 100-year-old pack, so they're pretty hard to authenticate. But anyway, just throwing that out there as would be a Grail pack. If it exists, none are known to exist. No boxes are known to exist. So that would be definitely one. 1941 play ball with the color cards of like Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams from 41. I don't believe there are any known packs of that either, but who knows? They could be out there. As far as stuff that actually does exist, for sure, 1952 Topps is the obvious one. Everybody wants it. The packs that are known to exist, I think the population report is somewhere in the 50s for how many packs have been graded by PSA, but I don't think any are known to be high number packs. And the high number packs are the ones that, of course, contain the Mickey Mantle rookie card. The only ones that are known right now are all thought to be low series, up to number 310 or something like that. So you wouldn't have a chance at the Mantle card. 1940, late 1940s Leaf and Bowman, extremely rare. I think only a handful of those have been found recently within the last few years in a major find, which I can talk about later if we want to talk about some big finds in the hobby. There was a 48 nearly complete Bowman box that came to market and brought in, I think, over $500,000 for it had 19 of the 24 packs in the box, and it is the only one known to exist. It was just found a few years ago. Those would be my baseball. As far as hockey, now when you get into hockey, like anything from the 50s and 60s is just ultra rare in hockey. I mean, just any of it. 66 Topps with like the Bobby Orr rookie would obviously be an amazing pack. I don't know if there are any out there. The 54s.
Sorry, what I really want to know is the ones that we know are out there. Like not the fantasy stuff so much, but what are the packs that we know exist that are kind of on people's radar? I understand a 52 Topps pack, really interesting because you could pair it, even if it's not a high numbers pack, you could pair it with your 52 Topps cards or your 52 Topps Mickey Mantle. But of the ones that are not like these fantasy, maybe they exist, maybe they don't. The ones that are really out there, like I would expect 52 Topps, 86 Fleer basketball, 79 O-Pee-Chee hockey, right? Wherever there's a key. I guess the question is, just to make it even more specific, does the pack carry itself, or is the pack carried by the key cards that were in that set?
Oh, that's a really good question. It kind of works both ways because a lot of times just the rarity of a pack outweighs what's actually in the pack. There's certain years that are just hard to find, but there's no real key card in it, and it can drive the value really high and be a very desirable pack, even if the chances of getting really nothing in the pack exists. Just that the fact that pack alone exists in an unopened form makes it highly desirable. But the things that do exist, I mean, probably one of the most expensive single packs that I know that has sold very low population was 1957 Topps basketball, which was the first year Topps produced basketball cards. It's the kind of the 52 Topps of basketball. It's got the Bill Russell rookie. A PSA pack recently sold at auction for $130,000, one pack. So that is definitely a Grail pack. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Lots of great comments coming through, you guys. And I'm going to get to them. Leighton has joined us. We're going to start the Vintage Spotlight segment with Leighton Sheldon of Just Collect and Vintage Breaks. So let's bring Leighton on. And as always, I ask our guest, and I ask Leighton to come with a question for each other. So we will do that. I'm just going to wait for him to come back for me. He seems to have just gone away. Okay, he seems to be back. Leighton, are you ready to go? You good? I think he's good to go. I'm going to bring him on. Let's see what happens here. Leighton, how are you? I don't think we can hear you. I'm gonna take Leighton out for a sec. Leighton, are you? Can you say something? Okay. Okay. We'll let Leighton go in and out. While we do that, we'll go to a couple more comments that have been coming in. And again, guys, great stuff here. Evening to you, peeps. Card Vibe says, Rex? What's your favorite pack that you own?
Ooh, favorite pack that I own. Probably, I have a 1969 Topps baseball cello pack. It was a test issue, very limited, very hard to find. The cellophane on it is super brittle and hard. They're really hard to find. That's probably my favorite pack. I love the graphics on it, and it's a really rare pack.
69 cello is his favorite pack. That's pretty cool. And then last question before we bring Leighton back. Joe Sacco is asking, do you have any unopened boxes as well as single packs?
I do. I don't have as many full unopened boxes as I do single packs, but I do have a few in the collection.
Cool. Very cool. All right. Chris C., hello and good evening to you. Let's bring Leighton back out. There he is. Leighton, welcome back. How are you today?
Good. Take two. Thanks, gentlemen.
Good. And Rex meet Leighton, Leighton meet Rex, fellas. Welcome to the show, Leighton. And we're going to jump right into it. You know, I like it when you guys have something to ask each other. And Rex, let's jump in and start with your question for Leighton.
Hey, Leighton, how are you? So I've seen you out at some of the shows here on the East Coast. I've visited your booth many a times over the years, so it's nice to talk to you in person, or sort of in person. I was thinking of a question I wanted to ask you was, vintage pack breaks, these streaming pack breaks that people are doing online have gotten really big over the last few years, and I know that you were kind of one of the pioneers in that. From what I remember, anyway, you're one of the first guys I remember seeing, doing the online live streaming breaks, and I thought it was really cool. But my question for you is, so I'm an unopened pack collector at heart. So when I see like a rare unopened pack from like the 50s or 60s opened, it kind of gives me, it's like a little dagger, like right here, because I kind of compare it to, you're sort of destroying a relic, almost like, what they do with modern cards now, where they destroy maybe a bat or a jersey, of Babe Ruth or something to insert pieces into a card. And once you open the pack, it can't be put back together. It's kind of lost forever. But I will say, I love watching when you break like, a super awesome rare pack and watch what comes out of it and feel that nostalgia. So I was just wondering on your end, you're a collector and a businessman. So like, I just wondered what your perspective on that was. Does it ever give you pause, or do you think about what packs you open or don't open, or, how does that work for you?
You know, it's funny. Before I comment about your question, I was like, oh, so I guess we're officially a guilty pleasure of Rex. You know, like meaning you don't really want to open the packs. If it was up to you, you wouldn't really open them. But it's kind of hard for you to look away. And I kind of feel for some like reality TV, you know, I'll go out locally in Hoboken and someone's like, hey, do you watch this reality TV show? I'm like, no, definitely not. But, you know, maybe secretly you are kind of like interested in watching it. And so I just was thinking that, you know, kind of top of mind. But to answer your question, you know, Rex, I consider it all because you remember I started off like many of you, a young kid getting into, you know, the space really with a ton of innocence and a lot of fervor and really just the love of baseball, not necessarily the cards, or at least for me, that's how it started. And so, you know, you brought up something interesting, and I'm not saying there's like a right or a wrong. There's really just opinion based.
Exactly.
But I definitely do not rank, for example, destroying a Babe Ruth flannel as the same thing as opening a 1952 Topps pack. Because to be clear, a 1952 Topps pack, as issued, was intended to be opened. A Babe Ruth jersey, I'm sure card companies would argue otherwise, it was never intended to be cut up. And so, you know, candidly, if I get enough money, God willing, one day, I don't have any wood around here, I'm going to buy them all. I guess I'll fight Nat Turner for the balance of what's out there because I know he's a big collector of them. Yes. And really, maybe like once a year, twice a year, I'll have an unopened holiday and I'll try real hard with government to get something designated. And I probably would keep most of it closed. But the reality of it is, I don't have an infinite amount of money. I still collect. I do appreciate the space. And for those that are just kind of like tuning in and don't really know me from like, let's say 20 years ago, my first job after I graduated Rutgers College with a degree in management, I graduated the School of Business. I'm like, oh, Mark Murphy, the baseball card kid. Remember that name, Rex?
I do.
Yeah, I took my 4-year college degree. I paid $50-something thousand for with my own money, buying and selling, working at Johnson & Johnson. And I decided to try to make a go of it. And I ended up in unopened. So believe me, more than most, I have such an appreciation for it. And the way that Vintage Breaks really started was, if you rewind at the National, I was just so happy and proud to be taking a vintage pack that I really looked at almost like a bottle of wine that you maybe want to taste, but it also has value, but it's old and it's vintage and you appreciate it. And I'm like, oh my God, these cards are amazing. Like opening up a 62 Topps baseball cello pack, the cards are unreal. There's no gum stains. They literally shine. And if you're a card collector like myself, Rex, not just an unopened collector, it makes your mind like spin.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I'm having, I think, a hard time composing myself now, because really there is no right or wrong. Like I said, if I had all the money in the world, I would buy it all up and I would eke it out, but like in a way to have fun and just open it for the sake of enjoying it and collecting it. But that's not what I do. And so I definitely understand there's 2 or 3 sides to every story. But for the moment, we're always on the hunt for something really exciting and different, like a 57 Topps basketball pack. But, you know, that'd be a little bit too much per spot.
Yeah. I completely understand. Like I said, you know, it's I don't hate anybody or fault anybody that opens the packs. Like I said, for me personally, it would be the choice to, you know, keep it unopened as a relic. And I also understand, of course, you're in business, you're there to make money. It's all part of it. You know, and I do appreciate that part of the hobby. And the one thing I do like about it is the excitement. I mean, the excitement it's awesome when you open a rare pack like that. I mean, like I said, I can't look away. You know, I've watched your video online of the 55 Bowman break where you pulled the mantle. I think it was at a national. You know, and some of the other ones, you know, that you've posted online over the years. I mean, it's amazing stuff. You know, I can't say anything bad about that.
Well, you know, you brought up the 55 Bowman pack. So ironically, the National will be in Cleveland this summer.
Yeah.
And so, of course, you know, we're hoping to do something really special there, you know, in honor of us pulling it years ago. But you brought up something really interesting, is that there's the historical nature. You're right. You may not get anything, but you might just get the hobby's best copy of the key card. And yes, it might be a long shot, but can you imagine opening up one of the few 1957 Topps basketball wax packs that are really, you know, still left, and there can't be any more than a handful, and pulling, maybe you don't get a 9, you get an 8, but it's a well-centered with incredible gloss Bill Russell. So all of a sudden what's happening is you're taking the unopened market of collectors and you're kind of crossing that bridge, you know, with the set collectors and the rookie card collectors. And so for me, I just love cards so much. It's really hard for me to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take one of these, call it 9 packs that are left in the world. But if you said to me it was the last one, oh my goodness, I would certainly be torn, and I would try to put it, away where I couldn't touch it, for any amount of time or effort.
And I think that's kind of my perspective. It's, like you talk about the Bill Russell rookie card. I don't know how many 8s are out there or 8.5s. I know there's more of those than there are the packs of the cards. So that's kind of where you get on that fine line of, boy, only 1 or 2 packs of these exist. Is it worth opening it? And like I said, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube once it's opened.
Yes, but the Mickey Mantle that we pulled was the Pop 3 PSA 9. I believe there's no 10s. And the last 9 sold for like 300,000 or so, which is more than the pack would ever sell for. And believe me, I'm not suggesting that it's likely this would happen.
Yeah.
But you're talking about, right? We're in the entertainment business also now. I didn't think about that 20 years ago. Of course, but today, I mean, the idea of like, I don't know, filling a stadium and like having a decade break from the 30s to the 2000s, it gets me crazy.
I agree. No, like I said, I would never tell anybody what to do with their collection or their money. So it's like, and I do have an appreciation for it. But it's something that I know that we talk about a lot in the vintage wax community. It's like that fine line of what do you open, what do you save, what's more near and dear to people. Is it the unopened pack? Is it the cards? It's that constant back and forth tearing at the, just trying to reconcile it in your head. What's best? Do I really want to open this, or do I want to, just enjoy it for the pack that it is?
Absolutely.
Once they're opened, like you said, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, but you have to be very careful because the wrapper is now the remnant that is also a collectible. So you have something to salvage from opening those packs. But yeah, if there's only a couple of a certain pack left and they're now opened, those are gone. I want to bring up a comment here from Henry. Thought this was pretty good. He says, sorry guys, but I've got a bunch of vintage packs. I don't plan on leaving this life without opening almost all of them. Like you said, the nostalgia in ripping them is what it's all about. And I've said it before myself that, with my unopened pack collection that, I'm not going to open them yet, but maybe on my deathbed in 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it might be, maybe I'll open them then. I don't know for sure. We'll have to see. It's a fun topic though, definitely. And I want to ask Leighton, do you have any, and I was having some technical difficulties there for a moment, so I was in and out, but I know you guys were chatting nicely. Leighton, did you have any questions or topics you wanted to raise with Rex?
Sure. So, one is related to the vending machines because, as a professional card treasure hunter, there has been some really nice finds that have been uncovered in card vending machines. So I'm curious, in your travels, have either you or anyone close to you that experienced even just a good find of fresh vending cards while you were actually just looking for the machines themselves?
Oh, for me personally, it's definitely a no. I've never come across any of the cards like that in that state, which would be amazing. Because if anybody out there has ever opened a vintage vending box that's been untouched, it's a pretty amazing sight to look at. The cards are packed like brick tight.
Rex, oh my goodness, you had me packed like a brick and open a vending box. You had me there.
Yeah, it's literally from the day they left the Topps floor, they've sat in this box unopened, packed solid, packed tight, super sharp corners. Vending stuff is amazing and it's tough to find. And yeah, there have been some finds out there, but personally, no, I've never experienced anything like that in my hunt for the machines, unfortunately. Although I will say that my 1952 machine here, when I purchased it, it did have the back was really kind of it was really on there tight. I had to I found the key that worked for it, and I finally got it open and got to investigate the inside of the machine. And underneath the mechanisms in there, the coin mechanisms down here on the bottom, I did find a handful of cards, maybe like 6 cards in there. They weren't in great shape, but they were early 50s cards, and I think maybe like a Bowman 54 or something like that card in there. So that was a super cool little surprise to crack open the machine and see that in there.
1 second.
But yeah, that's about as close as I've come.
Interesting. Well, I appreciate you sharing with me. I'm certainly hoping for a big vending find. Jeremy, can you hear us okay? Because I know you have some technical difficulties. Well, Rex, I got another question.
Thanks.
Okay, great. So, Rex, I wanted to bring up something that's interesting, which is, I guess kind of like an interesting topic, if you will, that you want to talk about in your Facebook group, which I'm familiar with. And, some of these packs that are really rare that we've been offered through the last, let's say, number of years through Vintage Breaks, they tend to be the ones where someone gets a 6 on a pack and they're like, it's got a small corner rip. I don't really want it for my collection, but it might make a great candidate to open. And so what I wanted to really just share both with you, Jeremy, and really the audience is that, if you don't know this little secret, I'm going to share it now. Just because a pack is graded low, if you investigate it and start to get some experience with it, it doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong with the contents, i.e. the cards in the pack. And so certainly that's one of the ways we've been able to offer some interesting and more cost-effective vintage packs to our community, Rex. But also what I was going to say is, if you, the collector who's watching this, either wants to find something a little bit more affordable, not feel so guilty, take a shot. Go on eBay. See if you can find a pack rated 3, 4, or 5. Once again, no promises for me. I'm just saying that I would tell you more often than not, I've seen the cards, and once again, depends where the centering gods are, that particular day as you open those, treasures. But as far as the actual condition, unless the corner was banged and you can see some rounding, because you can use a loop, right? I've done that. If I see wear on the corners of these packs that are graded, Rex, I will take out a loop. And if I can see people are like, why don't you want to buy it late? I'm like, because I can see wear on the corners. I want to sell fresh cards to the people that are participating. But I just wanted to pass that along because it really does present a wonderful opportunity either to just own the pack at a discount, or if you're someone who wanted to take a chance and roll the dice, so to speak, it's also an effective way to get kind of a cheaper entry point, to potentially an unopened treasure to rip open.
Yeah, the only thing I would say on that too is probably the one red flag that you don't want to see is water damage, like mildew, because that is an indication that the stuff inside is not going to be
great
any kind
point.
of good shape.
Absolutely. 1955 Topps packs are notorious. We've been offered, honestly, I would say, in excess of a half dozen of them in the last 5 years, and we can't buy them because basically they're almost all damaged in some way. Even the ones at grade 5 or 6, from what I can tell, there's going to be some sort of issue. We just won't open them.
And I believe a lot of the Mr. Mint find packs from Paris, Tennessee, back in the 80s was a huge find of 1954, 55 era Bowman and Top stuff.
Yes.
I believe a lot of those suffer from that same condition issue. A lot of them have some soiling or some moisture damage, which that would kind of be a red flag if we're opening the pack. As far as finding the cards in a good condition, they're probably stuck together. The gum's probably in a really bad condition and leaked. Got a lot of residue on the cards. So yeah, it's kind of a red flag in that case.
Agreed.
All right. Good stuff. This is I don't know. Can you? Yeah.
We heard
I can hear you,
second, Jeremy. Oh yeah, I think you just went out again.
Yeah, I can hear you, but you were going in and out a little bit.
How about now? I'm coming back this way now.
Coming back. I got you there. Well, loud and clear now.
Okay.
I wonder if the unopened gods heard Jeremy talking about the notion of opening some of his packs on his deathbed, and they're shorting out his electricity because they're like, Jeremy, open the packs, buddy. Open the packs now. Just joking around, Jeremy. Let us know if you need us to, chat further. Hope all is well over there, especially with the unopened packs.
I think I'm back with you guys. I feel like I'm back. I got you. I apologize. I went into my phone. I'm back here on the computer now. We'll see. I'll go back. There was a big delay. In any event, thank you guys for carrying the show while I was dealing with that. Interesting stuff. Leighton, thank you as always for coming on and sharing your knowledge and expertise. You guys hit it off, that's for sure. I hope you guys see each other's show next time and can have a nice conversation and share some tales with each other. Guys, thanks, Leighton. And I'll just let everybody know to follow Leighton on Instagram, Leighton_Sheldon, _collect. His podcast, Trading Card Therapy, just did episode number 51. I believe that was this morning, Leighton. I jumped in and said hello myself. So thank you as always for coming on. If there's anything else you'd like to mention, please take a moment and do so.
Well, listen, I just wanted to mention that, I really appreciate being on the show. And tonight, Rex, I tuned in again before because I wanted to hear some of the conversation with you and Jeremy, and I really enjoyed it. I wish you the best with your collection. And if there's anything in particular that you're looking for, drop me a line or a DM, and I'll keep an eye out in my travels.
Yeah, I like I said, I see you at some of the shows, so I always stop by your booth, and I'll be sure to say a hello next time I see you.
Hey, listen, if we can rescue just one of these, you know what I mean? Like we're on a mission now. We're gonna work together. I'm gonna try to come from the other side. We're gonna rescue a couple of these, that we want to see not opened, and we'll see what we can do. Rex, it was great chatting with you. Thanks again, Jeremy.
Thanks, Leighton. Thanks, Leighton.
Thanks, Leighton. Take care, man. All right. Okay.
Let's
get back to it, and hopefully my issues are behind me here right now, but we'll have to see about that. So let's go back now, Rex. There was a question that came in earlier from Craig's Cards. He asked us, are we seeing less or more fake packs nowadays? And to me, the issue is resealed, right? It's like these wax packs they're delicate, they're fragile, and you can open one up. And I know that people have attempted to seal them back together. I've heard some crazy stories.
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts? What is the community feeling about these right now? How risky is it out there?
It's always been very risky with the packs, because as you said, especially with the wax packs, the way they're sealed, they're fairly easy to crack open and reseal. But they're I think we're going to get into it later. I'm going to talk about ways to kind of detect pack tampering. So we can do that whenever you'd like. But
let's get into it right now. Now.
Okay. So yeah, it's always been risky. But to your first question, I think it's less risky right now because we've got people in the industry like Steve Hart who are authenticating these, who are super reliable. I mean, that guy is grading thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of packs a year that are going through his hands. And yes, has he made some mistakes in the past? Yes, he's made a few. But believe me, when you put it in a percentile, he's batting like 99.99. Okay, so he knows what he's doing. He's a great asset to the hobby, to the unopened community. So I think if you're smart and you know what to look for, it's less risky because we've got a company like PSA with Steve Hart out there, who's authenticating these. Now, if you're going to go on eBay and roll the dice and buy an unauthenticated pack from a seller you don't know, I mean, you're really rolling the dice, because I would say it's less than 50-50 chance that it's a good pack. Probably far less than that.
I want to just talk about Steve Hart and BBCE, or Baseball Card Exchange, who are known for wrapping products, especially like unopened boxes, in their wrapping to certify their authenticity. And, whether it was a year or two ago, he had certified a case of Pokemon, and it ended up having G.I. Joe cards inside. And I think that's a well-known story out there. My question for you is how, you just said that, he's, just like anybody, you're not going to bat 1,000, but did that impact the reputation or the reliability within the unopened community of BBCE wrapped product? And I do want to also say that, that wasn't a sports card product. That was something that he wasn't as familiar with. So how did that impact the community?
for people that have been in the Wax Unopened community, people that know Steve, know his authentication skills, it was not an issue. I think we, like you said, we all understand you're going to make mistakes. I think we all agreed that he probably stepped out of his comfort zone in authenticating. I think it was a Pokemon case or something like that. You know, and being a case, which is essentially a cardboard box with, you know, with some tape on it, is, I think, far more difficult to authenticate than maybe a box or a pack. So yeah, I think he took a leap out on a ledge and authenticated something that he probably didn't have the greatest of familiarity with. And I feel bad for him, because if you know this guy, he is just such an awesome guy. I mean, he really works hard to make the pack collecting safe for us collectors. He does it at a very reasonable price. Now, I'm not talking about through PSA. That's a separate process he authenticates through, but through his own baseball card exchange wrapping that he does of boxes. And I mean, he's pouring through thousands of packs, and he works, I mean, endless hours. He doesn't know me from Adam. And, you know, I've walked up to his booth at the National when that's like his super busiest times of the year. He's flying around like a madman and doing authentications on site. And he takes time out of his day. He'll come up to me. I'll ask him to look at a few packs for me and give me his thoughts. He's done it. He doesn't charge anything for that. Like, he's just that kind of guy. He's a super nice guy. And I felt really bad to see, some of the blowback from the Pokemon stuff, because I don't think he really deserved all that ridicule. Although, you know, he put his name on something, and that's, I guess, what goes along with it. But
yeah, it was a tough situation for sure. Didn't look very good, but he's got people in his corner, of course. And at the end of the day, is there anyone out there who's better at authenticating unopened packs and boxes? I asked that question. That wasn't rhetorical. I don't know. Maybe there is. Maybe guys in the Facebook group are as good as he would be. I don't know, but he's been, putting his name on it for the longest. So he's the go-to guy. And the fact that, PSA uses him to authenticate packs, they grade them. My understanding is PSA grades the pack, but they don't grade it until Steve has authenticated that it is untampered. Interesting comment I just saw come in here that I want to bring it up. Hold on, let me find this, because this was a good one. Darn it. Okay. Okay. If the question was basically said that, okay, he's batting 99.99%, but most of them are unopened. So how do we really know what he's batting? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
Is it based on is it, yeah. Can you address that?
It's a fair question. But I will. The only way we can judge it is on the stuff that's been opened. Right. And the stuff that's been opened, you can watch all the breaks. You can watch Leighton, who was just on. He breaks authenticated packs. He's never had a flub on his channel or some big controversy. So that's really all we can go on is what we've seen, and people that have opened packs that he's authenticated and looked at, and that, it's a fair question, but that's all we have to go on.
Well, let's see.
I will say too,
from people that are. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do agree with you. I think that he is probably the guy, the best one in the hobby. Although, like I said, there are guys in the Vintage Wax and Packs group that I really trust who have a great eye. Like Kurt Christensen, I'll mention him. He has an authentication brand that he runs called Ripping Vintage Packs. Kurt's another great resource in the hobby, very much like Steve Hart. Takes the time out to help the collector. He authenticates boxes. He's not doing individual packs. He's not doing super old stuff right now, like 50s, 60s stuff. He kind of leaves that to PSA and Steve, but I've had him look at stuff for me and help me out with vintage stuff, and he's an amazing resource. So there's guys like him out there that I think are super trustworthy and know their stuff, but Steve's probably the guy.
Yeah. Well, a couple of comments. did come in here. Andrew D says it was a non-issue for me. The guy has so much knowledge and understanding of packs, a true asset to the hobby. Henry here. Henry made the comment, BBC is the best there is out there. Steve Hart is an amazing guy. I met Steve and talked with him at length. I would trust him over anyone in the business. And that's the one thing, like, is there anybody else? So, you know, a lot of people might have been very turned off by that whole Pokemon G.I. Joe incident. I think that's understandable to a point, but without, you know, then is there no industry at all, or is there no reliability on anything unopened? Like, does that whole niche within the hobby have to go away because Steve Hart incorrectly authenticated a Pokemon box, which was based on the tape around I mean, it seemed so elementary, and yeah, that was a big mistake he made. But does that compromise his ability to, with some level of accuracy, authenticate an unopened wax pack, which is different than an unopened cardboard box around a bunch of boxes that have packs in them? So, you know, that's kind of where what I wonder about when it comes to that. Card Vibe here says Steve knows his unopened boxes and packs. I trust his opinion. He's also very good at getting back to you if you have any questions. And listen, like a lot of you guys, like, I've met him too at the National several times. I've bought graded packs from him, and you know, most of my unopened pack collection has come through him. So, you know, I was kind of a little shaken to see his reputation take a bit of a hit, but at the same time, I don't know how reasonable it really is, although I would never use him to authenticate an unopened case of Pokemon. But I think, you know, you'd be silly maybe to do that at this point, or now maybe he's the best at it because he's the one who felt it the most. I don't know. But okay. All right. Let's so, you know, I do really like the topic that we talked about with Leighton about, you open up one of these packs, are we destroying a historical relic? But at the same time, it's that nostalgia feature. And, you know, like, I've got, you know, my unopened pack collection, you know, here's just a little stack of them. And, you know, one day I think I'd like to open them, but I might at that point in time say, no, I'm going to put preserving these historical relics ahead of my own desire to open them and smell the cards and crumble the gum in my hands, because it won't be chewable at that point. And maybe I will not open them. I don't know what I'm going to do yet at that point, but I think it's a really interesting thing to as we think about as unopened pack collectors. But to me, Rex, it's not about what's inside the pack. It just isn't.
I think that's the point.
It's not. It's about the artwork, you know, the artwork on the pack. It's about the pack itself in its original form. I just love these things, and they display so nicely. You don't really have to worry about the sunlight, you know, drowning it out or fading the border or the autograph or whatever it might be. They display so well. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, talk about the nostalgia. I mean, for me, seeing that pack is this nostalgia, almost more than seeing the cards. I've seen the cards. I've seen the cards a million times. You can go to any card show and see 1975 Topps cards stacked up. And, you know, as cool as it is, it doesn't really do much for me. But when I look at, you know, those, you know, the graphics on the packs and, you know, it's just cool. I mean, it's like, it reminds you of, you know, just being a kid and holding that pack in your hand. And I think that's a completely different feeling than holding a card up. So there's the nostalgia part of it. But for me, the packs are just as nostalgic or if not more than the actual cards.
Look at this one, 80 Topps basketball with the panels. I mean, I opened these as a kid, you know, at the corner store, and to have a pack still is just such a cool item. There we go. We're pack bros on the 80 Topps basketball.
They're twins. I got a Larry Bird showing on the back of this one.
Oh, so that's another thing that's really sort of important in the unopened pack world. Is there a star player or an important rookie showing through? And to be honest, Rex, for me, I prefer without, because it saves you a lot of money. Like an 86 Fleer basketball pack like this one right here that I have, if Michael Jordan was showing through the front of the back, this would be very expensive. Much more. It's already expensive, be more expensive than it is. Without it, I don't really care if Jordan's in here. I want the pack. Of course, I'd love it if he was. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I want the relic as it is. And if Jordan was showing, I would have had to pay a lot more than I did for this one here. So I like that. How important is it to you as a collector to have packs with stars or important rookie cards showing on the front of the back?
Well, I love the stars showing packs, but it's at the end of the day, it's not that important to me as just having, the pack or a pack from a year. If I find one with a star showing on it and it's a reasonable price, or obviously that's what I want. But like you said, you got to pay up. If you get a big card on the front of a pack, it really significantly ups the value. Like I've got, I actually have, I think four of these now because I love Hank Aaron, 1975 top cello packs with him on the front. So, you could pick up a 75 cello with nobody on the front of it for $500 to $600. These Hank packs, I'm not sure exactly what they're going for now, but if I had to guess, they're probably up there around 2,500, 3,000 maybe, in that arena. So it's a big jump. It's a big jump. And Hank, it's not a rookie card. This is next to his last year.
And what about, so now let's about opening the packs again. Back to that for a second. Like, these are packs worth more than the cards inside? Like, generally speaking, an 86 Fleer with, that could contain Michael Jordan, a 79 O-Pee-Chee hockey could contain Wayne Gretzky, 75 Topps baseball, George Brett, Robin Yount, among others. Even like my most valuable unopened pack is my 61 Fleer basketball pack. Maybe there's a Wilt Chamberlain or a Jerry West or an Oscar Robertson in here, Elgin Baylor. I don't know. I don't really care. Like, it'd be cool. But is the pack worth more than the cards inside, generally speaking?
Well, I would say generally speaking, yes, because typically the odds are pretty stacked against you when you open a vintage pack, which is one of the reasons I don't like opening them at all, because your odds are just so stacked against you. When you're talking about vintage packs in the 60s, 70s, 50s, there's usually 5 cards in a pack, okay? So the top card is going to have a gum stain on it. The bottom card is going to have a wax stain on it. And then you've got 3 cards in the middle, okay? And, if you're talking about a set of, let's just say baseball in the 60s, I don't know, most of them had 500-600 cards in them. Yes, now sometimes they're broken into series and things like that, of course, but even with that, your odds are so long of pulling that one star card that might be in there, or 2 major star cards that might make the pack actually worth less than the cards in it. And that's to say nothing of those 3 cards in the center. What's the centering going to be like? What's the the clarity of the card going to be like? Quality control at Topps in the 60s and 70s was not great. You're not getting perfectly cut cards every time like you are in a modern pack. So to me, the odds are just so long and astronomical that you are actually going to pull a major star card in high grade that, generally speaking, the pack itself is going to be worth more than the contents, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it does. And then I guess you also have to look at the odds, right? Like on an 86 Fleer basketball pack, there's only 132 cards in the set, and you're
Correct.
getting 12 you're getting 12 cards and 1 sticker. So sticker wise, you've got a 1 in like 13 chance of hitting the Jordan, and cards wise, you've got a 12 in 132, 1 in 11 or so. Not that bad. Like we've seen, there are or you open up a pack of 79 O-Pee-Chee, where you're getting how many cards are in that pack? I got a packet, 14 cards in the 79 O-Pee-Chee pack out of a 396 card set. I don't know those odds off the top of my head, but 1 in 30 or something like that. So a lot tougher. So I think you have to consider pack odds as well, right? When if you are going to open it trying to hit the big card, which is more in the wheelhouse of like vintage breaks or anybody who's opening up a big pack for the entertainment aspect of it, and of course the gamble for the people that buy into it as well. Make sense?
Yeah, I think you nailed it, because to typically basketball and hockey packs are going to give you the greatest odds because they have the smallest sets. Like your 61 Fleer pack, it's not a big set. I don't know exactly what it is off the top of my head, but it's small, probably smaller than the 86 Fleer set. And there's a ton of stars and rookies in there. So that is actually one of the vintage packs that I think you may say it might be worth opening, because I think there's enough big hits in it that it might be worth a chance. Yeah. I mean, Will Chamberlain, Jerry West, there's Bill Russell's in there. All right, don't do that, Jeremy, because I'm gonna lose it here. But you're right though. That is one of the things you should weigh when you're thinking about opening a pack, is the odds. And like I said, typically basketball, hockey give you the best odds because there's the fewest number of cards in the set.
Yeah. I made myself nervous just holding my scissors up to the 61 Fleer basketball pack. Let's talk about the grading companies. We've talked about the Authenticator. They're really the only one who I think has, made a business out of it, being Steve Hart and Baseball Card Exchange, with all the hair on that there is. And I've seen some back and forth in the chat. I'm not going to address that anymore. We all know that story. Tons of content out there for anyone who's interested. We're going to talk about what we love, which are these packs and these items themselves. The grading, though, Rex, because the one thing I really like about this and this is the older PSA generation slab. I don't have any of the new ones. I noticed someone did put a comment saying that the new ones are putting some pressure on the packs in some cases. So I'm glad I don't have any of those slabs in my collection. I only have these old ones. And now if I want to add any more, I'm going to probably have to get the new slab, which we'll see what I decide. But can you just, outside of that issue for now, can you explain to us, like, I've got my 61 Fleers in a GAI holder.
Yeah.
Now, can you take us through the history of grading these things? And number one, who is GAI? Like, I know, but just for everybody else, tell us a bit of the history of GAI grading packs. Were they first? When did PSA start? Is one company trusted over the other? And like, this is a really flimsy holder, guys. This is semi-rigid. It's very fragile still. Like, I store this in lots of bubble wrap, and I take good care of this, because unlike the PSA slab, I mean, this thing is solid, whereas this is soft. So can you just sort of take us through the grading landscape?
Well, so first, just to touch on the slabs that you're talking about, before I get into the grading companies. So actually, that GAI slab, even though it is, like you said, it's got a little bit of bend to it, a little bit of like flexibility. I'm not going to super bend this, but it's got some bend to it. They actually did a great job of preserving the packs, because it gives it just enough movement that they're not being pressed or squeezed. And it's a good seal on the pack. You can't open this and reseal it in any way. It's got a good sonic seal on it. They display really nicely. They got a nice flip on them. So they're actually a pretty good holder, even though they're semi-rigid. The problem with the PSA packs that you mentioned, and I've experienced this firsthand because I submitted packs at the National this past August, some wax packs, and they had super tight, flat seals on the back. These were wax packs. I got them back in the holders, and on the backs, you can see some crumpling where the seals were, and I was super disappointed to see that. Now the pack's in the holder, it's been authenticated, but I was very disappointed to see the pack, these new, like, thicker holders, and they're a lot bigger. But even on this one, I'm sure it's not going to pick it up probably great on the camera, but it basically lifts the seal on them, because when I submitted them, they're super flat, like no problems. And now when you look at them, there's some like crumpling on the edge, a little bit of waviness here in the seal. Yeah, so so I'm not submitting any more packs, at least until they figure this out. So that's to address the holder stuff that you brought up, and I was showing you also. So this looks like 2 packs. It's actually one. This is this is the pack I had done at the National, which thankfully thankfully the seals on this one seem to hold up really nice. And I don't know if it's because it's in this.
What is that pack, Rex?
Oh, this
What
is a
the pack?
1955 Bowman 5-cent baseball.
Very cool.
And
Beautiful.
I actually have two. I have two of them actually.
Oh, nice.
And
How
I'll
do
talk
they
about.
grade? What are the
They're
grades?
very low grade. They're a 3 and a 1 because they have some edge damage to them around the edges. So they graded really low, which I expected. But just to have them graded and authenticated is huge because I think there's less than, I want to say like 50 some packs in the population report of the 5-cent packs. So they're pretty tough to find in any grade. So I was happy just to have them authenticated and sealed up. And thankfully that holder held the seals pretty well on those packs. But if you want me, I can dive into the grading companies if you want to.
Yeah, let's hear about that. Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, GAI was actually, they were really the first ones to start grading packs in the early 2000s. The early labels, the what we call like the silver labels, the silver flips, like this.
Yep.
These are generally pretty reliable. As far as being good authentic packs, they were authenticated properly. If you look at the serial numbers on those packs, what you want to look for is it's between I think it's like 101 and or 100 and 102, the first 3 numbers of the certs. If you've got those 3 numbers on there, it's probably a good pack. They had really good graders back then. I believe Mark Murphy, who Leighton mentioned, was one of the graders back then. Go ahead, I'll let you.
I don't know this, so as you're saying it, I'm literally looking at the serial number, and mine is 102. So I'm very happy if that means that this is better.
It's far more reliable.
Yeah, that's a nice win for me on this pack. I had no idea.
It's far more reliable. Even if you get to the 103s, most of those are pretty good, but you want to look closer. And then they flipped. I don't think I have one here in front of me, but at some point there was they changed ownership in the company around maybe 2005 or something. They changed ownership. The flips are a little less reliable. When you see they're like white. They call them like white flips compared to the silver flip or silver, labels. So if you see that white label, they're a little less reliable. That doesn't mean they're a bad pack. They still had some good authenticators then, but they're less reliable. If you're trying to get the best value for your money, I would look for those early silver label slabs from GAI. They were a good company for a while, and they even what I like is, let me show you something here. They used to encapsulate the actual display boxes, which is cool. And they're very lightweight, very much a little flimsy, just like the pack holders, but it was really cool. And nobody else really does that now. They're a nice display piece, and you're not going to hurt the box. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, GAI early on, like I said, Mark Murphy, who was one of the, sort of call him the godfather of Unopened. He was involved with GAI back then, and so if you're looking for stuff, try and look for those early silver labels as being more reliable. And then they went bankrupt around, I think, 2008 or 9, and they've been out of business ever since. And I think actually one of the guys you had on your show not too long ago, his name's slipping my mind, Mike Baker.
Yeah.
Him and I think Damien were involved with GAI for a while, and both of them. Damien, I know at least Damien. I'm not sure about Mike, but I know Damien knows a lot about Unopened, and he was doing authenticating for them for a while too. So take that for what it's worth.
So GAI has been grading packs for a while. Was there overlap between GAI, silver label GAI, let's say, and PSA? And like, at what point did PSA become, and are they the leader in grading wax packs right now?
Yeah, so there might have been a little bit of crossover, because I think PSA started grading packs around 2006 when they brought Steve Hart on, as their authenticator. So there may have been a little bit of crossover there, not much, between those silver label GAIs and when PSA started. But I mean, right now, PSA is the leader because they are the only one. They're the only one doing it. SGC doesn't do it. Beckett doesn't do it. There's really no other third parties doing it. There's a few guys, like I said, that are wrapping boxes similar to what Steve does through Baseball Card Exchange, but nobody is like slabbing packs and putting their name on it. Really, nobody, at least that I've seen, that I would say is as reputable as Steve.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're still the go-to. And you mentioned it earlier. I'll just mention it real quick. For those of you who don't know the process, basically, whenever this is kind of a problem too, but I'll talk about that later. Whenever you submit a pack to PSA, so you're sending it out to California or wherever to PSA, they're packaging it up, shipping it off to Steve, and who is in Indiana, the state of Indiana. Steve reviews the packs and authenticates them. There's been a little bit of back and forth as to whether or not he grades the packs. I've always been told he doesn't grade the packs, but then I've also heard that he does maybe put little post-it notes on them with a suggested grade. I don't know how true all that is, but I have seen evidence of that. But the bottom line is Steve is the one who every single pack is going through his hands that go to PSA. They are going through his hands. He's reviewing them, authenticating them, puts his seal of approval or lack of seal of approval on it, sends it back to PSA. They're slabbing it, sending it back to you. And that's kind of one of the reasons, too, I'm always hesitant to send packs to PSA because of how much transporting they're doing back and forth across the country. But, I mean, I think for the most part, they've been okay with that. But it's one of the things that gives me pause in sending in an expensive pack.
But what's your option? Like, what are our options if we want to have a pack graded? I mean, for me, I guess the option would be just to only buy a pack that is a slab. And the slabs, like the PSA slab, well, the old slab is just so awesome. Like, I really like that slab a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, buying a slab pack to add to my collection for display purposes and just collectability purposes makes a lot of sense. We don't really have any other option unless we're doing a custom display for our own unopened pack, and maybe we don't care about getting some third party to authenticate it. We know it's good. We've had it since we were a kid, or we bought it from somebody that we know who had it since they were a kid, or found it in a staircase like this 52 Bowman pack that I read about earlier today. I saw someone posting in the chat as well a little bit earlier. So, I mean, there's right. That's really your only option if you find an ungraded pack, is to have it go through all that travel to go to send it to California. They send it to Indiana, back to California, and back to you. A lot of miles going on these. Is that the only option?
Yeah, kind of. And I mean, it's I mean, that's how it is. And I personally have never submitted a pack through the mail. I've only dropped off at PSA when they were at like the National or another show on site. It's not a huge difference. I mean, it's basically one less stop, but at least I've got that peace of mind that it was in my hands. I handed it to the guy at PSA. He hands me a receipt. Now it's on them. They insure the stuff, and it's not my burden anymore. I know they've received it, and it takes one less step out of the travel. So if you go to shows in your area where PSA is on site or at the National, I think that's a great opportunity to do it. They don't do packs on site, unfortunately, like they do cards. So it's still got to go through all the travel. But like you said, it's kind of the only option. And lately, a lot of us are taking the stand that you mentioned, in that because the holders have been damaging the backs of the packs, we're kind of like, I'm okay with this pack being out of the holder because I know it's good and I'm okay with it, and I'll wait until they figure out their issues.
Yeah. What can you tell us about, like, how is an unopened pack authenticated? How do we know? How do you detect tampering? If you are somebody who's listening or watching this right now, and you're going to go to an antique shop or a flea market, and you're going to find an unopened pack of something from whenever, 70s or the 80s, let's say, a wax pack, not a foil pack, but a wax pack. Like, what can you look for to try and tell if the packs have been searched?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of things you want to look for, and so I'll use an 85 hockey pack here to kind of just try to illustrate some of it. So one of the biggest things you want to look for is what we call a roller mark, and the roller mark, essentially what that is, at the Topps factory they had like it was basically probably a metal roller, a hot roller that would come right across the pack. Would roll right across the pack and seal it. And those rollers would leave about 1.5 inch mark that goes across the pack, just like this, straight across the middle of the pack. And when you hold it, it's not always real visible, but when you hold them in the light, you can see it pretty good, or you get like some good lighting, you can see it pretty clearly. So you want to look for the roller mark.
Sorry, Rex. Have the roller marks held up for decades? Do they still appear? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, unless the pack's been, in sitting in bad conditions or really damaged, typically, you can still get a good read on them. Now, obviously, you start getting older packs, it does get tougher, but for the most part, you can usually see them on there. So like I said, the machines always kind of ran across this way over the top fold. So they would run just one way. So if you see any kind of lines going this way, long ways across the pack, somebody may have tried to do some kind of sealing on their own, or if the roller marks don't line up across, they've got these little lines. It's almost like a little railroad track. You want to make sure the lines all line up, from one seal to the other side. You want to make sure those lines all line up perfectly. So that's kind of the first thing you look for. The next thing would be these corner folds. You want these to be like nice 45-degree folds, nice and crisp. You don't want there to be any crackling in the fold, indicating that they've been pulled or turned or twisted. You want very clean, sharp edges, about 45 degrees. You want to look for like odd wrinkles or tears or rips in these center parts of the pack. They should be pretty flat. It should be very flat and conformed. Just very flat and leveled out. You don't want to see any. If you're seeing like rips, here in the middle, I mean, it's kind of like an indication that it may have been pulled apart at some time, or rips, things like that should not really be there. So those are kind of the two major elements that you want to look for. The other things are, we want to make sure it's completely flat, that seal there. You don't want to see any tenting, where it's coming up like this and going down. You want to look for a real nice flat seal on the back. I mentioned, no vertical roller marks like this. You want to see them just straight across. If somebody's really bad at resealing a pack and they've used glue or some kind of sealant, sometimes you'll see fingerprints actually in the seals here. So if you see that, that's usually a bad indication that somebody used glue or a lot of heat to try and seal a pack back up. So if you see any fingerprints, that's usually kind of embedded into the seal. That's kind of bad. If you've got a bunch of packs from a single box and you stack them up, like this, let's say you pull out one of the, like the corner 9 packs out of the box. If it's a factory box or a box that, all the packs were from that original box, the folds should all look really consistent. These little corner folds, when you line them up, they look like every pack looks identical almost. If you're seeing a bunch of different wonky folds and seals, that's an indication that there may be some tampering, or that packs were kind of all assembled from different boxes over time. So that's another thing to look for. So that's basically the highlights on the wax packs. But if you want, I can touch real quick on the rack packs and cello packs if you want.
Let's do in a moment. I want to just go to some comments because we got some people who also kind of know their stuff in the chat. So I just want to, because it corroborates a lot of what you're saying. Even Carvin Chung, who is an industry titan, says people that reseal packs with heating up the wax. So they oftentimes the roller marks are gone because they've melted that wax that the roller marks were kind of imprinted within. So that's good to know, Carvin. He says, next, check for corners, just like you said, Rex. And then this one, he said, and feel under the seal to feel for glue residue. So another maybe potential indicator that there's some funny business going on. Bobby Burrell here says, Topps had more wax on their wrappers than O-Pee-Chee did. The roller marks were better embedded on O-Pee-Chee packs, comparatively speaking. And then not to do with that, but David Kaplan gives another good point, says one other thing, not an indication of tampering or anything, but if the gum doesn't move around, moisture may have gotten into the pack. Is that something that you're aware of, Rex?
Yeah, it's a possibility, but not always. Because like even this 85 pack here, this 85 hockey pack, super crisp and sharp, and the gum is pretty much right where it is. It's like it's not moving a bit. But I know this pack hasn't been in any kind of damage or, hasn't sustained any kind of moisture or anything like that. So it's just the nature of you're putting a sugar-based gum product on cardboard over the course of 30, 40 years. Sometimes it just sticks a little bit.
Yeah. Bob Boozle says Rex sounds like a CSI investigator explaining these clues. And then El Toro Loco says centering of the wrappers is another factor. This is something that I'm keenly interested in because I remember comparing a couple packs that probably at Steve Hart's booth at the National in 2006 or 7 back then. Well, which one should I buy? I'm going to buy one of these, for me, it came down to this, in addition to like maybe if there were some tears on the corners, I wanted to minimize that, of course, but it comes down to how well centered is that artwork on the front of the pack? Because sometimes it could be lower down, coming towards the bottom edge of the pack and that kind of thing. How important is centering of the front artwork to the grade and the desirability of the pack within the community?
But yeah, definitely on the desirability. You want a nice, clean, centered wrapper. The authenticity of the pack is not necessarily determined by an off-center wrapper. There were a lot of miswrapped packs back in the day, and actually, it's funny. I have some here in my house, some like 82 and 83 Topps that are 100% good and legitimate. The wrappers are literally cut off like halfway in between the pack. Like literally, you can see the back of the pack on the front. It's because they were like Topps miswraps that actually got out into circulation, but they're good packs. So there are some weird, we call them like Frankenstein packs, kind of, they're a little bit misshapen and morphed, but are
they desirable though, or are they just kind of like qualified, like miscut where they take big discounts?
Yeah. It's kind of just like miscut cards. Some people like them and collect them. They're a cool oddity, something different. But yeah, as far as desirability and grading packs, you would want the nice centered, as pristine as you can get.
Dave Kaplan clarifies, says not necessarily water, but high humidity can cause the gum to stick to the back of the card, or the back card is what he's saying. That makes good sense. Vintage Card Collector says, how does intact versus broken gum impact the collectability or the value in your view, Rex? Please.
Good question.
Great question.
So as an unopened collector, we always want to have the gum intact. It does add to the value of the pack. It adds to the desirability of the pack. It doesn't really have anything to do with authenticity of the pack, whether it's broken or not. But I will say that I'm not 100% positive about PSA as of today, but I know for a long time in the past, they would not put a pack in a slab if the gum was broken. And that had nothing to do with authenticity. What they didn't want happening was that gum tended to shift around and move a lot in the pack and in the slab. And so once, let's say they give a pack a PSA 9 grade, and all that gum slides around for a while and rips open little holes in the packs, which happens quite a bit. I have some like that. It looks really bad because PSA is giving this pack like a 9 with rips and tears in it and little pieces of gum floating around in the slab. So I think they will do it now because of the new holders. They feel more comfortable with the pack being secure. But again, that has to do with the squeezing the pack down maybe a little more and causing those flaps to fold on the bottom. So they solved one problem but created another.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a question came a while ago, but I wanted to get to this from Jake Dahl. He says, would you consider tobacco pouches as packs with cards still inside? So we're going back to the T206 era, the early 1910s, 1909 through the 19 teens before these became premiums for candy in the 20s.
Yes.
Tobacco, like cigarette packs and that. How much does your collecting and the community's collecting of wax packs go all the way back to tobacco and cigarette packs? And I guess the other question there for me is like, is it sort of Rex, like modern collectors may eventually go back and become vintage collectors as they go back in time? And like, how does your typical unopened pack collector feel about those early issues where they came in cigarette packs?
I mean, to me, I love them. I know a lot of other people do too, because that's really the start of it. Those early like 1900s, even late 1800s, when everything came in, it was pretty much a tobacco pack. And then it started to get into the candy packs and like Cracker Jack boxes. But I love these things. So this is a Sweet Caporal pack from the T206 era and a Piedmont pack from the T206 era. And these are actually completely intact, full packs with the cigarettes in them. Now they're not unopened, because these packs, to be actually considered unopened, they had like a wax paper or rice paper, you would call it, over top of them, like sealing them. So they were actually in like a wrapping. So when you find those are like the true unopened packs. And then you have let's see, I think this one has it. The full tax. They had like a tax stamp across one side that would seal one side of it too. So the Sweet Caporal one is actually fully sealed with the tax stamp. The Piedmont one, I can open and show you it. So if you were in 1909 and opening up this Piedmont cigarette pack, this is what you would have seen. It's basically this little slider insert, which is original.
Wow.
Flip it down, your card would be sitting right in there.
Huh.
And then the cigarettes were wrapped in foil. I think there's like 10 little cigarettes in there wrapped. That's the original foil wrap. That's the original cigarettes. But your card would have been right there.
That's so cool. That's amazing.
That's cool stuff. I love it.
Oh, that is so cool. So cool, man.
I mean, you can just imagine.
Okay, we're gonna go to smart.
Yeah, you can just imagine what it would be like pulling a Thai cob or something out of. This is what it came out of, man. This is, it's awesome.
Yeah. I'm even a little nervous that you're handling it, but you want to show it, and I'm grateful that you're sharing that with the audience. Those that are watching on video, if you're listening to this on podcast, after the fact, you might want to go onto YouTube and have a look at some of these images. Really, really cool stuff. Card Vibe wanted to know, are you into non-sports, Star Wars, or just sports?
I do. I love non-sports. I loved it since the 80s. I think it's awesome. I used to collect, the stuff that came out in the 80s, like the Goonies packs, which are actually quite valuable these days. A Goonies box from 85, I think, is worth about $500 or $600 these days. But yeah, I love the non-sport. It's some of my favorite stuff. And I got like, some cool ones I can show you real quick. Lost in Space, really tough pack. It's probably about a $1,500 pack from 1966. 1963 Topps Astronauts.
Very nice.
Which super rare pack. Look at that image. The graphics are just amazing on this stuff. I'll just show you one or two others.
What's awesome about them? It's...
Like, this is one of my all-time favorites. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. It's from 1964 Donruss. I mean, look at the graphics are just awesome. The color, the graphics. I'll show you one other one here. My other real favorite is Casper from 1960 Fleer, which I actually have a full box of these with 24 packs from 1960 Fleer. Super hard to get, but look how awesome that is. There's only been
It's awesome.
only 2 boxes have sold at auction, and they went for close to $10,000. I think over 9,000. And those are the only 2 boxes I have ever seen come up for sale. This is mine here.
Oh,
but just awesome. The
Unopened
boxes
box
are
of
awesome. The packs are
1961
awesome.
Fleer Casper, and that's BBCE wrapped. I can see
It is. Yep.
so cool. Yeah,
The boxes themselves.
That's really
the boxes
cool.
are just amazing.
Yeah, they make for such cool display pieces. You're showing up a Three Stooges box, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Really cool stuff, man. Yeah. We were talking about the moisture and condensation. Brett asked this question: do you store these things in a climate controlled room? Any tips on preserving your unopened material?
Yeah, definitely. You want to keep it in a climate controlled place. Definitely leave them out of attics or garages, places that aren't, a consistent temperature, like a room temperature throughout the year, like, in 67, 68 degrees, 70 degrees. You don't want them in, for example, like my attic at my parents' house, where I used to keep a lot of stuff when I was a kid. It would be like 90, 95 degrees in there in the summer and 20 degrees in there in the winter. I mean, that's not a place where you want to be storing packs, especially cards can survive. Packs, and depending on where you live too. I mean, if you live in Florida or somewhere like that, where high humidity, high moisture, yeah, you definitely want to keep them in a good climate controlled environment. And there's all kind of different ways to store packs.
They're like cigars. You need a humidor.
Yeah.
Or not, or a dryador, maybe.
Yeah. Same thing. Yeah, same concept.
Yeah. Okay. Bob Boozle made this comment earlier: chasing vintage packs seems like going on expeditions to find Sasquatch. I mean, it's like these things are so rare. Some of them are so rare that he's not far off. We talked about earlier the value of these things. What carries the value? Is it the pack or is it the cards? Well, Diamond Dog said has to be carried by the cards, but Dave Snyder, who I think left the show, said the pack carries itself because of how rare it is. Which to me, I think there's a couple of things at play there for sure. Vintage Card Collector said there's a couple of 1948 Bowman basketball packs. Nat Turner, chairman or president of PSA, owns one of them. I mean, that's just an amazing relic right there. Cardboard Prophet said, this is an incredible display of specific knowledge right here. Really cool to hear decades of passion for a niche coming through in the way someone talks about it. Very nice. Here's a question I want you to answer, Rex, from Eric Smith. He said, if someone wanted to begin a pack collection, where would you suggest one starts?
Well, I don't know what what sports you like specifically, but I think that I mean, for me, the role of collecting for me is always collect what you like, or what So if let's say you were you grew up in the 80s, and those packs are very affordable. Start out with that. Find something that you like, that you relate to. I mean, I didn't start collecting packs because they were a certain value. I just loved them. I thought they were cool. I liked them. I thought they were unique. I thought they were different than what everybody else had, as opposed to just having the cards. So for me, the number one rule of collecting is always collect what you like, and start there.
So let's take it a step further, because I think one of the things is, first of all, do you want to collect modern stuff? And by modern, I mean since Upper Deck came onto the scene in 1989. Are you looking? Do you want a pack of 93 SP baseball? So where Derek Jeter's rookie card came in, maybe you want 03 Topps Chrome basketball with LeBron James rookie card, or a 2005 Upper Deck Series 1 where Sidney Crosby's young gun could be contained. Hey, if you're a modern collector, I think that stuff's pretty cool. I don't have those packs, but I'm not against owning them one day. To me, those are pretty cool mementos. Linda's First throws out here the Lemieux rookie, an 85 O-Pee-Chee pack. So now we're getting back into wax packs, because after 89, we don't have many wax packs anymore. But
Right.
If you like modern stuff, I would say go after the packs that you opened as a kid and really loved, or the packs that contain some of your favorite or may contain some of your favorite cards. And as you go backwards, it's like, Rex, to me, it's this what I did as a, hockey's my number one love to collect. I collected all the O-Pee-Chee packs from 1970 to 1989. I couldn't get 68 or 69s. There's like 2 packs of each in existence, or at least that PSA has slabbed, and they're 5-figure packs. They're just really hard to get. So 70 to 89, great for me as a hockey collector. And then I picked a couple 3 basketball packs and a baseball pack, and I'll add a couple more, right? Maybe I'll go get an 86 Topps football pack with Jerry Rice, or a 1980 with Joe Montana. That's how I would recommend people do it. But there's like a hard line from when wax packs stopped being the way they were packaged, and it became foil and other, NBA hoops, for example, is in plastic. So pick the sport you love the most, the players, the packs, the packs you open, the products. I mean, I remember opening 80 Topps basketball, the perforated panel packs, and so I bought a pack of it. Luckily, I bought all my packs many years ago. I think my Michael Jordan pack, or my 86 Fleer pack here, this guy here, I think I bought this for $300. I know I bought it for $300, and now I think it's worth like $4,000 or something like that, which is mind blowing. But buy what you can afford, buy what you like, and if you can, go buy it in 2005.
Yeah, the value comes later. I mean, I bought what I liked, and now I'm seeing the fruits of it, because I bought all this stuff, 10, 20, 30 years ago when you could afford it. Like, I don't know, I could give you 1,000 examples, of this packs that I bought for whatever, $100, $200, and now they're thousands. I mean, it's crazy. I can't buy stuff now like I used to. I got to be very selective.
Yeah, for sure. Here's a question from Vintage Card Collector Rex. I don't know anything about this, but seems interesting. He says, any chance you can comment on pack dealer Steve Sabo? Been at the National for 40 years. Nothing is graded, but he says almost everything came from one source years ago. Sounds like a pretty good source of unopened packs, but what can you tell us about this particular source?
Yeah, so I'm familiar with Steve, not on a personal level. I know who he is. I've seen him at the National, because as a pack collector, I gravitate to unopened packs, and he's got an amazing display of packs in boxes. Having said that, nothing is graded, nothing is authenticated. He refuses to get anything authenticated. He basically says, I don't need them to be authenticated. People I know that have looked at his stuff have said no good. I'm just speaking what I've heard. I have no personal knowledge of it. So I don't want to disparage anybody, but I mean, if you were asking my opinion, would I personally buy any of his rare packs? I would not, because he's got some amazing stuff, like early 50s stuff that you just don't see, and it's amazing stuff. And look, if he ever decides to send it off to PSA or have Steve give it his blessing, then hey, I'm all for it. But until then, I'm not spending that kind of money on, because he wants graded pack prices for ungraded packs, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's one thing for him to say, I don't need to get it graded because I know it's good, or, well, no, but your customers do. So otherwise, conversations like this are going to happen, and it's almost, it's a bit of a red flag, I would say. I don't even know him, or I'm sure I've seen his booth, but I'm not familiar. But I would be hesitant as well.
I just want to say one more thing too, is that as I've been going to the Nationals, the exact same packs are in his display every single year. So I'm not the only one who's passing on them. Yeah,
no, fair. Okay. I wanted to go to a question here from Webo2. He says, regarding vending machines, which we haven't even talked about this. We got about 10 minutes left in the show, but that's okay. What are Rex's thoughts about original condition versus restored vending machines. And you obviously have a wonderful collection of vending machines. We can see them behind you. Please respond. I'm going to put it back up. Please respond to Web02's question about original versus restored. Your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I think my personal preference, as is most collectors, is you always want to have it in the original condition if possible. All of my machines are original except for this 55 one up here on top. I think was repainted at one time, and when I bought it, I actually had the top of it re-chromed. So it's had a little bit of restoration, but my other ones are all original. And I kind of like the original look. I like a little bit of dings here and there. You know, the paint's not perfect, and it doesn't look like it came out of a showroom. Now, if I found one like that, you know, in its original state, awesome. But I don't necessarily need to restore it to look like that. And I have a vintage non-sport vending machine. I don't have it here in back of me, but that one is from the 60s, and I bought it. It basically came out of the box. It was never used. So it looks like it was restored, but it is completely original. And when I find stuff like that, that's just like mind blowing, you know, and that's what you want, but that's not always what you get. But yeah, sure.
Obviously I have my vending machine right there. It's the only one I have. There was another one that I saw at the Edmonton Expo back in April or so, and I was tempted to buy it. I think it was one of the ones on your higher shelf there. One of those ones on those top shelves. Yeah. And, you know, I was tempted to buy it. I didn't. I probably regret that now. But tell us a bit about like how many people are out there collecting these vending machines. Is it a serious niche within I mean, I own one and I don't know anyone else besides you that collects these things. Yeah. How many of us are, and I only have one, so I'm not really part of that community. But if I was, how many people would I be meeting within that community?
Probably not a lot. And the main reason for that is because people don't know about them. Because I find that if I post pictures of these in a group or online, people go nuts over them. They love them. They're like, I got to get one of these. I got to go find them. I'm jumping on eBay right now. I'm looking for them. I had no idea these existed because you don't see them very much. When you walk around at a big show like the National, you may see one or two of them on the floor, if that. And a lot of people just don't know they exist. But when they see them, their minds are blown because just like me, they're awesome. They're just awesome pieces, and they're so much fun. I'm going to try and hold this one up a little closer to the camera.
Oh, they're so cool.
So for a penny, you got a piece of gum and 2 or 3 cards. And these machines here are from about 1954, 1955. They're produced by the Oak Manufacturing Company, which was a California company. So a lot of these machines that have surfaced have come from the West Coast. So we don't even see a lot of them on the East Coast, although you're seeing more now with the internet and eBay and, you know, things getting passed around. But yeah, like I said, if more people knew about these, more people would want them.
Yeah, they're I think they make such cool display pieces. If you're a vintage card collector, you're a pack collector, I mean, these things, like, that's why I bought this one here. And I actually, you know, you can't really see it, but I replaced the cards in the front with some more modern stuff. I got it. I forget what was even in it. Nothing that, yeah, that's the one I have. That's the same graphic on the side of mine, the Sports Card Center. Yeah.
That is the one. I'm sorry.
When's it from?
These are pretty much from the mid to late 70s to 80s, early 80s. And this is the one that I love because this is the one I specifically remember when I was a kid, was in one of the grocery stores that I used to go to. You know, right when you would go out the doors, they had a vending machine like this with these graphics. And I absolutely love it. I love seeing that. It's one of my favorite machines. It's not my most valuable, but it's one of my favorites just because of that. It brings it back for me.
That's all. I found mine on Kijiji, which is like the Canadian version of Craigslist, and I think I got it for like $60 or something. Like, it was dirt cheap. I have no idea what it's worth. Are you able to tell me what that machine I have might be worth?
Yeah, so they're definitely out there. You can find them at fairly reasonable prices. If you've got one in nice shape, working condition, Graphics look nice. I mean, just the machine without anything kind of in it or any cards placed in it. It's probably a $300 machine in that area, $350. Yeah, I know. Now, I've had offers for this one with the cards in it of I think close to $1,000, just because I did up a nice little display with I put 1971 as a theme. I got basketball, baseball, football, hockey in there.
Cool.
So you can really increase the value with how you display it.
Right on. Stooks Baseball wants to know: do you have any exhibits vending machines?
Oh, that's a funny question, because I've wanted to pick one up. I don't like them all that much because they're usually very plain. They don't have any graphics on the side, so they don't really stand out as much. But they are cool. And the funny part is, I went to a flea market this morning near my house, and the guy has an exhibit card vending machine for sale. Ooh. So if it's there tomorrow, I think I'm going to go back and pick it up. It's from the early 60s. Yeah.
Very cool. Jake Dahl wanted to know, are those actual cards on the 55 vending machine or just pictures? The one that you pulled down?
Real cards.
Those are all authentic 1955 cards. That's the best. That's what they've got to be. That's so cool. Yankees fan says here that Rex was going to talk Cello too. Looks like overtime or have him back soon. To which Chris C says, Cello, is it me you're looking for? I wonder where you are. That's hello.
I can do it real quick if you want.
C. Very funny. Well done. Well done. Good timing as well. Christy had a couple comments earlier that I did want to point out here. Climate controlled is a must for storing these things. He mentioned earlier there was yeah, that was it. Okay, good. All right. We are going to wrap up. We're gonna have to schedule you to come back again, Rex. In down the road a little bit and get into this topic a little bit more, because I think there's more to it, and as time goes by, there will be more fines and that kind of stuff. But before we do sort of wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share?
I mean, most of all, like I said, I think pack collecting is it's just a cool part of the hobby. If you're interested in it, check out the Facebook group, learn a little bit, dive into it. It's just one segment of things I collect. It's not the only thing I collect. I collect cards. I do all the cards. I don't do any modern, but I do vintage cards from all sports. I'm sorry.
What? Tell us a bit about what you do collect outside of machines and packs.
Yeah, I mean, vintage cards of any sport. I mean, basically, everything in my collection is pre-1989, going the whole way back to the 1800s. Tobacco cards, Gaudies, early tops. I've got a bunch of complete sets of tops from the 50s and 60s that I put together. Hall of Fame autographed rookie cards is something I got into 10 or 15 years ago. And the unopened stuff. I do some other stuff on the side too. Some little kind of subsets of cards, but those are kind of the main things.
I want to ask you this, and this question came up really early in the episode. We didn't get to it, but I'm curious. And me and Craig's Cards have been having some dialogue on this recently. But the word vintage, I think there's different ways to use it. I have how I define vintage for my collecting approach. When I say vintage packs, what does that mean to you? Where's the cutoff for you?
So not speaking about cards, but speaking about packs specifically. To me, you mentioned it earlier. It's the wax packs. It's when they ended, in like 1989, 1990. Now I'm not saying 1990 is necessarily vintage, although, that's almost 30 years ago. But to me, that's kind of the cutoff. The old wax packs with the gum in it. That's the vintage stuff. That to me, that's the cutoff.
What about cards? Do you feel the same way about cards, or do you have a different thought when it comes to the cards themselves?
I feel a little different about cards. To me, I think now I'd probably say like 1975 and below is what I consider vintage.
Why? Like
kind of an arbiter.
Yeah, right. Because to me, I don't know how you separate the cards from the packs. Like to me, I don't like. the pack, the way they were distributed is really, for me, what drives when vintage ends. Because for me, there's really not much difference between the way the cards were sold in the 80s as the 70s and the 60s and the 50s, right? It's wax packs with gum inside. So for me, I consider vintage, depending on the sport, to basically end at 1989. That, to me, for me, and I'm not saying this is how it is. This is just what I consider a vintage to be. And I know there's some people say, well, it was up until Donruss and Fleer came into baseball in 81 or whenever it was. Well, that's only one sport, though. So is that really it? Because they didn't change anything except for coming onto the scene. You know, you had new packaging materials. You had holograms on the back. You had better photography. You had no more gum with Upper Deck in 89. To me, that's a real turning point. And I don't personally see another real big turning point before, you know, in the middle of the 70s or the 80s for me. But listen, that's a whole other discussion, a whole other episode. So when you said, for me, 1975, I want to say, why? What is that? What happened in 75? And I know you can't, there's no real answer.
Well, it's kind of arbitrary. Like I said, I mean, everybody's got a different answer for that. There's no right or wrong answer, but I think like kind of after 75, and, you know, that's not a hard and fast deadline, but I think, you know, that's when we really started seeing like production really start ramping up into the 80s. And you start getting into more of that manufactured collectible era. You know, like, I don't know. I think like cards were just a little different previous to that. It wasn't meant to be a collectible that we held on to for years and were worth thousands and thousands of dollars. I think that's kind of a little bit of a turning point, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. To me, that turning point for me would have come when I first discovered Beckett magazines or when I would have first discovered a price guide. For me, I didn't discover a price guide until I discovered Beckett magazine in, you know, whenever they started coming out in the 80s for baseball. And then eventually we had the hockey come out in like 89 or 90 or something. So that's a whole other discussion. It's a fun one. We'll never have consensus, I don't think, but and we don't need it. You know, you can call vintage whatever you want. I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. Okay, we're going to wrap up. Andrew D said, it's been great, guys. I've been sitting here paying the bills, enjoying this conversation. Well done, fellas. Thank you very much, Andrew D. Tip of the mitt. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Want to thank you, Stukes. Colin Murray says, hammer the like button, guys. Thank you for that, Colin. I'm going to be joining the Facebook group. Rex, remind everybody, what's the name of the Facebook group if they'd like to join it?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm not an admin or own a group or moderator or anything. It's just a public service announcement that it's a great group, drama-free group with a lot of good guys in it. It is called Vintage Wax and Packs.
There you go. Vintage Wax and Packs. 86 Collectibles, another fantastic show to learn from. Thank you. Thank you, 86 Collectibles for being here. Mike Double V, good to see you. Says, I still couldn't resist opening packs unless they were graded. Tip of the mitt, I love sealed stuff as well. 86 Collectibles says, younger kids are calling the 90s vintage. Very good. Tip of the mitt says, I definitely see where Rex is coming from. Wax packs to cards. Vintage card collector, would you ever collect vintage wrap? Oh, this is a great question. We have to answer this one. Rex, would you ever collect a wrapper if you couldn't find or a pack just didn't exist?
Yeah, absolutely. I do have some wrappers in my collection. It's not something I typically look for, but if I see something cool, I will pick it up. I don't have many, but yeah, I mean, super cool. If you can't get the pack, get the wrapper.
Yeah, and they display, you can frame them. I have some in my collection. They display nicely too, as well. Mookie Chilson reminds us Beckett Price Guide started in 1984. Says, great show. Thank you, Mookie. All right, guys, we are going to wrap up. Thanks, everybody in the chat for joining. Thank you for your comments, your questions. This was a fun one. And, you know, these 2 hours have flown by, Rex. So I want to thank you for bringing such an interesting topic to Sports Cards Live tonight, to the audience. And I'm going to give you the final goodbye, and then we're going to sign off.
Yeah, I can't believe we've been on for 2 hours because I love talking about this stuff, and it was so much fun, and the time just flew by, and so many things we didn't even get to talk about. And yeah, I'd look forward to doing it again sometime. But yeah, I hope everyone found it informative and enjoyed it. It's a great part of the hobby, and collect what you like. Delve into packs, get a pack or two, and see what you think. And other than that, had a great time, Jeremy, and I really appreciate you having me in.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining, Rex. Everybody, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. This episode of Sports Cards Live is now over.